Hello everyone, welcome to an introduction or a primer to a Theology of Video Games. My name is Maple, and hopefully in the future we can do this live so that I can interact with you guys. Maybe do it on a Thursday, call it Theology Thursdays or something like that. But anyways, let's open up Paint, and I'm gonna write down a phrase, okay? And I want you guys to think of the first word that comes to your mind when I write down this phrase, or think of an emotional response. So I'm gonna write down the phrase Christian movies. Okay. I don't know for a lot of you guys, but the word that comes into my mind is unfortunately mid. Maybe your response is like, maybe something like that. Christian movies are known as not being great. And I'm going to argue that the reason why is, let's say this is thinking from the perspective of somebody that's making a movie, a Christian movie. This circle on the left, I'm going to write theology. The circle on the right, let me make a better circle. I'm going to write narrative. So this overlap right here, where these two circles meet, if I were to ask them to make a Christian movie, this would be the result. And so maybe for them, if I were to ask them, about their understanding on theology, they'd be able to give me a good description of, a topic that they studied. Or if I were to ask them to create a movie that's not Christian at all, they'd be able to do a good job. But if they don't have the overlap, or they don't have their understanding of the two topics together, if they don't have a good theology of that, then what they can produce as a Christian movie would be something along the lines of this. They could only deploy this much of their, ability. This is different for everyone, so maybe for someone out there, their understanding on theology and narratives are something like this, where this is theology, this is narrative. And maybe for some other people, their understanding is something like this. Or not like that, but like this, where the overlap is bigger. If we were to continue this analogy, the goal for all Christians would be to have a complete overlap. But I'm not really a fan of this analogy, and the reason why is I was doing some research online a couple of years back on a theology of video games, and the analogy that I got was something like making a bridge, where on the left would be theology, or rather Christianity, and on the right was video games. I'm not really a fan of this analogy because it implies that these two are on equal footing, or they're kind of valued as much or the same. So the analogy that I would use instead, if I were to continue with the Venn diagrams, would be, I'm going to write theology. I'm going to make a circle. I'm going to make a better circle. Let's say this is narratives. And there are other topics, this is different for everybody because everybody's on their own journey. Some people have topics that are outside of the circle completely. Some people have studied things and their understanding of it is completely inside their Christian understanding of the world. There would be some other topics where there is an overlap. Some would be bigger than others. Like, let's say this is a work or something. And there would be some other ones that are just slightly touching. So with this analogy, the goal for the Christian is to expand this circle with their Christian understanding of the world, while at the same time bringing in topics from the outside that are not in the circle yet. And so that's kind of what a Christian understanding of video games is about. Theology of video games. Video games. Our goal with this study is to bring this topic in here and to grow the circle to encompass this one. So the question that comes out of this is, why should we care? I'm going to make another analogy. I'm going to draw a box. In this box, I'm going to write things that your parents care about in relation to you, which is this box. So let's say they care about your grades. They want to make sure you do well in school and you have a future set up. They care about your job. They care about relationships and the friends that you have. And they might care about some extracurriculars. Like, let's say they made you play an instrument or something. Let me draw a circle here. One thing that is outside of the circle would be hobbies. And I apologize if this analogy hits home for you guys. For some of you guys, at least. So you know that your parents care about these things. And if this was you, maybe you would have gone through a difficult part of your life where you're trying to reconcile, okay, do my parents care about me as a person, as a whole thing? Because we know that for a lot of people, it's not just that they play video games, but video games is a part of who you are. You know, it's part of your identity. Maybe you're part of a gaming community or something like that. Or this is where you have a lot of your friends. So it's not just something that you do, it's part of who you are. And so the question is, you know, do my parents fully care about all of me, or do they just care about some things? And some of you guys might have had to ask the question and struggle with this. And so why do I bring this analogy up? You might not say this, and if I say that you think like this, you might disagree with me. But I would argue that instead of your parents, let's sub this out, right? Let's put God here. So you know that God cares about you when you go to church. You know that God cares about you when you read your Bible or when you pray. But things that are outside of, you know, these things that are explicitly Christian, you don't really have an understanding for that. So when you play video games, it's kind of disconnected from your faith. And it's not just video games here, but it's other things. So for some of you guys, you have, you know, rest. For some of you guys, you have work. Because these things are outside of what you think God cares about you, I would say that this is harmful to your faith. I'm not going to say detrimental, but it is harmful because truly God cares about all of these things, right? My first video, I made it on Stardew Valley and a biblical understanding of work. Well, that was just to, you know, be a primer or a discussion point to bring work into this. But yeah, that should be the case with video games as well. God cares about what you do. He cares about who you are as a whole person. And I can't really talk about this as a fact, but I can share my experience. I can say for at least 6 years now, I've really been passionate about video games and theology. And God has brought me through experiences that have been amazing. I've been able to see, you know, that God really does care about this stuff. He's brought me through opportunities like running video game tournaments and trying to make a community around a video game and seeing how this really fits into the gospel. And God has brought me through other experiences, not just related to video games, but for example, I also interned at a church for a year. You know, I preached and stuff, and I had the opportunities to speak at a conference or something like that to share my views about gaming with other people. And I can truly say that gaming has been, you know, now that I've brought it into my faith, has been a big part of it. You know, for example, like, it doesn't even have to be that big, but let's say like I come home from work. I had a rough day where I was like, you know, mentally exhausted, and I come home to rest and play games that, you know, I can de-stress on. Or let's say I've used video games as a means to develop relationships. In these moments, I can say that I truly was glorifying God in these moments. And that I honestly think that, not in all of these moments, but in some of them where I've been playing video games, I can truly stand before God and say, God, I did this for you. I did this for your glory. And God will say to me, you know, well done, my faithful servant. So yeah, this is just a part of it. Unfortunately, I'm not the best teacher in the world. I'm not eloquent with words, but I can share an experience that I've lived through, and hopefully we can continue doing this. But yeah, this is just a primer on a theology of video games. Unfortunately, I'm kind of burnt out. Even thinking about doing something like this gets my heart palpitating. So yeah, hopefully we'll do this slowly. And yeah, I could really show you guys what this theology and video games and all this stuff is about. And I can show you from the perspective of someone that's currently weak, because I know God uses weak people to do great things. So yeah, I'm excited to show you guys. But yeah, thank you for watching. Hopefully next time we can do this live and I won't have this, perfectionist mindset about me, and I won't be recording this for like, the 50th time. But yeah, anyways, take care. Have a good day. This has been Maple. This has been Theology Thursday if you're watching on Thursday.